Hi and welcome back to the channel. My name is Norf, I am from London, and this week we're talking about interview questions. I believe that interview questions are a little bit like wet weather and taxes. They just happen, and we have to deal with them. So in this video, I'm going to give you some techniques to successfully answer interview questions, in my humble opinion. I'm also going to share with you a couple of tips that I have used, give you some examples, and then I'm going to leave you with 3 killer interview questions you need to think about before you get to interview day. So if you're ready, let's get started. To successfully answer interview questions, you have to understand that they are part science, part art, and part celestial. All the planets kind of need to be in alignment for you to be absolutely successful. Of course, that last bit I'm joking about. But it is part science and it is part art. So frankly, what is the purpose of interviews? It's an opportunity for the interviewer to find out whether you would be a great fit, not just in the role, but also in the company. They're not out to trip you up, but they need to understand if the company does extend a job offer to you, will you be a good candidate or will you be a great team fit? Don't forget, it also gives you an opportunity to interview the recruiter or the interviewer, and possibly, if things move in a positive direction, you may well get the opportunity to interview parts of the team and other members of staff before you choose to sign on the dotted line. Broadly, I believe that you can teach anyone to do anything, but team fit is a whole nother level. What sort of questions can you expect from an interview? So there are a typical handful of questions that you'll expect, but in this video I'm not going to cover off every single question. Because really, a list of interview questions is as long as a piece of string, really, isn't it? So in my experience, I've found that there are 8 types of interview question. The first set of 2 are around experience and credentials, and these have to line up with your CV, your curriculum vitae, your resume, and also your LinkedIn profile. The next one is based on competency. Are you actually able to do the job? Do you have the skills required to do the job and consistently do that job to a very high level? The 4th is around your view and your perspective. What would you do if you were in this particular situation? The 5th type of question is around problem solving or critical thinking. If you were in a particular situation, how would you creatively find a solution to that problem? The 6th type of interview question is around behavioural questions, and we'll come on to those a little bit later. The 7th type are brain teasers. One of my favourites is, how many pop vinyls can you squeeze into a Volkswagen Golf? The 8th and final type of interview question that I've discovered are crazy questions, I call them. And these ones are designed to see how you think on your feet. Most interview questions, and you'll start to get a feel for them, tend to start with, tell me about. Give me a situation when this happened. What would you do if you were in a situation and X happens? So a great method to answer questions like that is to break them down into 4 sections, and we'll use something called the S.T.A.R Method. S.T.A.R stands for situation, task, action, and result. Paint them a picture when it comes to the situation. This is where you are, and this is what you were told. The task is, you explain the task. I had to do this, or we had to deliver that. You then explain the action that you took. What is it you did? And then you can explain what the result was. If you can consider breaking your response down and putting them into those 4 boxes in that order, the answer to your question may be, and here's an example, Norf, can you tell me about a time where you had to improve the overall quality of customer engagements for the sales teams? Whoa, that's a great question. Given that I was part of the training team, I was tasked with how do we directly impact the quality of the responses from our sales teams when they are on video conference calls. And we had to improve this by about 10%. So after doing a fair bit of research, I could have simply just put an email together and sent it out to the sales managers to pass on to their team. But given that I'm a bit of a right-brainer and creative person myself, I decided that I would create a video. So I picked off the top 5 easy wins that all of our sales teams could do to up their game when it comes to virtual online meetings and some of the tips and tricks that they can do. The video was put together. It was put on a central location where everyone in the organization has got access to it. And now the vast majority of everyone in our company uses the techniques that I put together in the video for interactions with their customers, and actually even interactions within their teams. And that is how I would use the S.T.A.R method to answer that question. So when you're constructing your answers to those tell me about questions that you get from a recruiter or an interviewer, use the S.T.A.R method. Situation, task, action, and result. The answer to that question was short, concise, to the point, and there was no rambling. So when you answer your questions, ensure that you are succinct, you get your point across, and then don't ramble. Don't waffle on. And then finally, when I considered to get that point done, I decided that I wouldn't do it that way because that's what my friend Jason had said. Actually, what I needed to do is I need to change that, and then I needed to... If there happens to be a question that you haven't already prepared for, here's a technique that you can use to buy yourself some time. Simply repeat the question and then add on, that's a great question. If you have to, you could then also add, just give me a moment to consider that, and then answer your question. That will give you enough time to sort in your mind what a really good example is, thinking on your feet of an answer to that question. Also be sure to give a valid, credible example. There are hundreds of behavioural questions that an interviewer or recruiter could ask you. But in my view, the top 7 would be teamwork, the ability to adapt and be agile, time management skills, communication skills, customer or client-facing skills, your personal motivation and values, and continuous learning. An example question within teamwork could be, can you give me an example of when you were working with someone on a project, but you both had different personalities? For me, your response should include focusing on the facts and not the personalities. Remember, you have a project to deliver. The ability to adapt and be agile. Say, for example, if the timelines of the project shifted, what could you do to ensure that you're prioritizing that part of the project that you're working on? Time management. What do you do about distractions? How do you avoid them? How do you focus on putting in the effort and the energy to ensure that that part of the project that you're working on is delivered on time, if not ahead of schedule? Communication skills. What are your communication skills like, both written and verbal? Motivations and values. What are the things that really drive you, and what are the values that you have as an individual? Do you enjoy being in front of clients and customers, or do you prefer to work in the back office, churning through stuff? Continuous learning. For me, personally, I block out a couple of hours a week on different days where I read articles and look at tutorials to sharpen my skills. So be sure to include those words when you're considering and preparing your responses to those interviewer questions. There are 10 factors of success that recruiters and interviewers are looking for when you present your answers to them on your interview. And these factors are a positive attitude to work, a visible proficiency for the job that's at hand, communication skills, both written and oral, interpersonal skills, how do you work with people of different personalities and of the same personality, problem-solving skills or critical thinking, agility, self-motivation, leadership and influence, teamwork, and customer orientation. 3 killer questions you have to consider before you get into your interview. And these are the 3 killer interview questions that I've chosen. There are multiple questions, but I've just chosen these 3. The classic, of course, is tell me about yourself. How would you respond to that? The second is, why should we hire you? The third, if you had 15 seconds to sell you and your abilities, what would you say? The way to respond to all 3 of these questions is relatively straightforward. Ensure that you are positive, you're professional, add some passion into your response as well, because interviewers want to see that you're a human and not a robot. Know who you're speaking to. You would have done all this during your practice, and practice your response. Don't memorize it, but practice your response. And lastly, be succinct, to the point, and don't waffle. So my example would be, I've been a personal sales and development consultant for over 15 years. I'm passionate about people, and that really is where my best work is done. I've been looking for an opportunity to expand my role, and that is why I'm so excited about working at this company. Why should we hire you? My example response to that would be, that's a great question. And from what we've talked about today and the research that I've done, I know that you're looking for a skilled communicator who is able to deliver both in person and online, who could expand not only your impressions, but also your reach. At my previous company, impressions were up by 54% through the work that I did. So I'll bring all of that along, my creativity, personality, and passion into the role, and also the wider organization. And the final question, if you had 15 seconds to sell you and your ability, what would you say? My example would be, I'm a people person, and people are your greatest resource. Simply put, people buy from people, but people buy more from those that add value to what they do. Finally, look to stand out as well. So the interview has gone, it's happened, it may have gone well, it may not have gone as well as you'd expected, but still look to stand out. You still have an opportunity to gain. One of the things that I've always done is sent a follow-up email. So particularly the example that I gave earlier where I created that video, remember that video that was up there? I created that video. I would send that as a link to the interviewer or the recruiter in my follow-up email. It helps elevate you in your position to be head and shoulders above anybody else, to stand out just by that tiny, tiny margin. And sometimes that's all that's needed. And that's it for this week. I hope this has been super useful on looking at different types of interview questions. Remember, we looked at the fact that interviewers and recruiters are not looking to trip you up, but they are looking to see if you'll either be a good candidate or you'll be a great team fit. We had a look at the 8 types of interview questions. We had a look at the S.T.A.R method and how to answer those questions. We looked at 10 success factors. We looked at 3 killer interview questions and how you can successfully answer them. We looked at buying yourself some time as well. And then we looked at how to stand out just by sending a follow-up email after the interview. And that's it for this week. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what you see so far, remember to like and subscribe to the channel, and also hit the bell notification so you're made aware of when the latest content gets dropped on this channel. Please let me know in the comments section below how the interviews have gone, whether you've used any of the tips that I have put in this video, and let me know as well whether you've been successful using any of these tips and you've landed the job. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.